Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Steam Deck and see how this particular, handheld console holds up in 2024. Now, here's the thing. I have seen so many people talk about the Steam Deck, and it is by far one of probably the most, not impactful, maybe impactful, but it's probably one of the most popular gaming handhelds that, any company has ever made, beyond than just Nintendo or Sony or one of these big companies. The fact that we had a console like the Steam Deck, which was able to give you a very good experience at a fairly cheap price tag and as a gaming handheld, that was one of the coolest things going on. And I loved the Steam Deck because that actually gave us a little bit of a, community beyond than just the standard handhelds that we had before. So, gaming handhelds like either mobile gaming or Nintendo one or the Sony one. This was one developed by a completely different company. And that was something that was actually very cool going on for this particular device. So I will tell you, for a lot of different ways, the Steam Deck in a way is in its own league, it's in its own class. There are obviously there's a lot of other gaming handhelds out there, but I think the Steam Deck stands alone just because of the community behind this particular console. And there's obviously the successor to the standard Steam Deck, which is the Steam Deck OLED, but I think even the standard Steam Deck is still perfectly fine, and that's the one we're going to be looking at in this video. If you want to pick up the Steam Deck though, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the outside of the Steam Deck, this particular console, I truly do feel like was a very, very good console when it came down to it. So for the base Steam Deck, which was the one I bought, right now they're going on sale for about $400, but you can buy them a little bit cheaper, I think for $349 if you buy the 64GB model. I honestly probably wouldn't even recommend doing that. If you can go up to basically that, standard, the $399 one, I'd probably recommend doing that one a little bit more, but beyond that is totally okay. This particular console on the front has that 7-inch, diagonal display. It's a very decent panel for what you're getting. Is a 1280p by 800 panel. It's not the best, sharpest panel of all time, and you can definitely get better panels on a gaming handheld than this thing. It's only up to 60 Hz refresh rate, but I do think for a lot of use cases, this particular panel really isn't even that terrible. I think it's a pretty good looking display for, what you're getting. And if you're playing it on the go, if you're playing it as a handheld, it's really not that bad. And there's really not that much to complain about here for this particular, console. I will tell you, the first time I actually went through and actually set up this console, I was getting some really weird issues. It basically wasn't connected to my Wi-Fi or something, and wasn't actually able to go through the setup. It was a very, very weird thing. I still don't understand why that happened. Over time, I was able to, kind of fix it. But that right there was another very weird thing that I kind of experienced, but it wasn't that big of a deal. On the sides of this particular, console though, you can see there's a few things going on. So you have these kind of touchpad things on the right side and left side, which are pretty cool. They're just kind of bigger, buttons that you can kind of click. You have the joysticks at the top. So you have two joysticks at the top, which really give me Wii U vibes. It's so funny. Every time I see this, Steam Deck, it just reminds me of my Wii U, and it's just so crazy. I kind of get like PTSD from it. And you have the buttons pushed all the way to the top. Now, I personally do not like having the buttons all the way at the top right there. I think with the Nintendo Switch, how it's kind of portioned all over the place, I actually prefer that a lot more than how these particular buttons are set up. But honestly, I don't even think it's the biggest deal in the world or anything, but this is probably one of the more annoying things, honestly, for the outside of the console. But some people love it this way. So, it's just really preference, and I could probably get used to it. I've gotten used to it over time, but that was just one thing that kind of, maybe irks me a little bit. You have the Steam button, you have the menu button, and that kind of is it on the outside. Now, the cool thing is with these buttons, for a majority of games, they're mappable, and if you install any other emulators or anything like that, you can always configure these buttons to do other things. On the top side, you have your volume buttons, you have your other buttons as well. You have your power button, obviously, and you have a little vent at the very top and a headphone jack too, which is pretty cool. And on the bottom, you just have your standard charging port as well. So overall, the things that I love on the outside of this particular Steam Deck, there's a couple of things. One, I love the fact that this particular Steam Deck, the way it looks, it's not this super, ugly looking thing. I think it looks pretty decent. It's not the best looking thing either, to be honest, but I think it's a good, decent looking console for the most part. I like the fact that this thing is fairly portable. So I don't know if it can fit in everyone's pocket, but if I have a jacket pocket or something, I can throw this thing into it. And I love the fact that this thing has a community behind it. It's not supposed to be the most expensive, gaming, device of all time. It's supposed to be something that's supposed to be a handheld, more so like a Nintendo Switch replacement, but more powerful than the Switch and dedicated basically for playing your Steam library. But the coolest thing here is that a lot of people have done a lot more things than just play your standard Steam library of games. And it's crazy because almost every single time I watch some sort of like $500 or $600 PC build, even sometimes up to like $700 PC builds, when I was watching those and I was trying to see if I was going to buy like a gaming desktop PC or whatever I was going to buy, a lot of comments would say, hey, if you're just looking for something to play, emulators or whatever, you might as well just go and buy a Steam Deck and just connect it to your monitor. You can always connect a keyboard and mouse to it and, use it as almost like a PC, and you can just play your library from that. And that will probably give you an equal or better experience than actually buying a dedicated, gaming PC. And I would think about it a lot, and it actually does kind of make sense. I, did buy the Steam Deck obviously because I'm making this video, but that was something that was actually pretty crazy because within this particular Steam Deck, on all the Steam Decks basically available, you were getting that AMD CPU, you were getting 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is actually quite a lot, and you were getting up to your standard storage model which you were choosing at the time. For me personally, like I said, I bought the exact base model, so I think I did buy the 64 gigabyte model, but I would recommend every single person to go beyond that and basically buy the more expensive one if you have the option to. This thing does have expandable storage, but if you have the option to, I'd recommend expanding it as much as you can. And I did like this thing, and so from a performance perspective, it was a very decent performing gaming console. I mean, for what you're getting, it's very hard to beat this price unless you really know what you're doing. I don't really know what I'm doing, so obviously it's not going to, I can't spec out a PC per parts and negotiate on the prices. So a Steam Deck is perfect for somebody like me who doesn't really follow the gaming PC scene, but I love playing games, and there's a lot of games out there. So that was one thing that kind of spoke out to me for this particular gaming handheld, because it wasn't the most expensive thing of all time, which was actually very cool. And I also love the fact that this was a gaming handheld, but you can also dock it up to a monitor if you want to. And there's a lot of monitors that are supported on this thing. I mean, it just takes a USB-C in, so you basically have endless amounts of capability there too, which is another really awesome, cool thing going on for this particular console as well. Now, the only thing and the only other thing I'd probably tell you for this particular device is that if you don't want to buy the standard Steam Deck, you can always buy the Steam Deck OLED. This is its main successor, and is the latest and greatest that, basically Steam has made. And I do think it is an overall better experience than something like the standard Steam Deck. I feel like the display is one of those things that you're either gonna you're gonna be okay with it or you're gonna hate it. I don't really see a lot of people loving that display versus on stuff like the OLED display on that particular device. You were getting an overall better device on that particular one than for something like the, standard IPS one. When you take a look at the OLED switch and the IPS switch, there's very big differences. A lot of people love the OLED switch. I don't really think I've ever heard anybody like the switch, the standard switch's display. But again, I totally see what's going on here. I totally get it. But that was one other thing to kind of keep in mind here too. So overall, what I'll definitely tell you is I think the Steam Deck is still completely worth buying, and I think it's a very good console. It doesn't really get that much better than this thing, and I do think if you're going to go through and buy some sort of console, I mean, how much better can it get than this thing, right? You can get the OLED one, that's probably getting better if I'm being honest, but I think the standard, Steam Deck is still very good. If you're wanting some sort of device like that, I think it doesn't get that much better than the Steam Deck or OLED Steam Deck, and I'd probably recommend going down that direction and buying one of those devices over the standard Steam Deck, but I still think the standard one is very good as well. So that pretty much covers it up here. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.